Hello and welcome to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is David Hogg, who is a social worker and case manager at Independence Australia. Welcome to the program, David.
Thanks, Mirella.
Can you tell us, first of all, what is Independence Australia?
So Independence Australia is a not-for-profit. It's a rather large one. I think that it has about 850 support workers. It's also got two really awesome psychologists, a doctor of psychology and a clinical psychologist. It's got two case managers as well. So basically our purpose is to help people become as independent as they possibly can in their lives. As a social worker there, my role is to basically work with people who have more barriers than the average person in society. So I work in the disability sector. When I work with people, I try and find their spark, their flame that's inside of them. Every single person has a part of them that knows that they're strong, that knows that they can achieve, that knows that they can integrate and grow further. It's my role to help tell that story of when they have been strong, to find the resilience in their story, to find where they've overcome despite barriers, to find people in their lives that would believe in them, that would expect them to achieve, and help them envisage a pathway to achieving the goals that they want to.
Right. And then how do you go about doing that with them? What sort of examples or...
So when you're setting goals, there's an acronym called SMART, which means specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and timely. So it's really amazing to get people to think of, grandiose goals of, for example, I would like to get employment. So we would break that down into something very specific, like a step towards employment. That might be, finishing off a course or doing something like that. So very specifically, I'm going to finish my Cert 4 in business. It's measurable because you can check at the end, have you finished your Cert 4 in business? Is that achievable? Well, yes, you might have to do it over a long period of time, but that's not an unrealistic goal. So realistic, and it's timely. So we'll say we'll achieve this goal within 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah.
So the other thing with setting goals is that willpower is actually a finite resource. So that means that if you're spending a lot of your time during your day, battling cognitions that are, talking you down, that are catastrophizing and finding, ways to tell you can't do something. By the time you go to do it, you don't have enough willpower to do it.
Okay.
Now, these are people that already have barriers in their life to start with. So you can imagine the compounding factor of if they have these cognitions on top of that, or if they have people in their lives that are telling them they can't do things, the effect that might have. So it's really important for anyone that is marginalised or has extra barriers to remember to surround themselves by positive people, to catch those thoughts that are telling them that they can't achieve things, and to think of times where they have really achieved things, where the fact that they've done it despite having a disability shows an additional layer of strength to what they can achieve rather than other people. Yeah,
wow. Because they've got a lot of the odds already against them.
Well, exactly right. And if they're finding a way to do it, that's pretty resilient in my eyes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what else can you say about your work there? Have you got an example with, say, someone that you've worked with, you don't have to mention names or anything, and you've noticed them achieve some really good goals?
My work really truly believes in helping people. They don't just say that they want to do it. So for example, we've got a staff giving fund where we put some of our wage into a fund, and then when clients really want to achieve things, we use that money to pay for them to do things.
From your own wage?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I've got one client who we've helped him like reconnect with his girlfriend, to go to football games, to to go to a ball dressed up and feel proud and engaged. He's actually benefited massively from the rising technology in the disability sector. So he unfortunately is in his 20s and can only control his chin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he also lives in an aged care facility in a dementia ward, even though he's fully cognizant.
That's terrible.
Yeah, so that's really, really limiting on him. But through technology and through his passion to continue being a part of society and being integrated, we've worked together to modify his wheelchair so that he can control his wheelchair just with his chin. He can drive it round, he can leave when he wants to. And then the second thing was we set up a button on the back of his chair where he can control his environment. He doesn't have to wait for a staff member to walk into the room to say, can I turn on the TV, or I don't like this channel, can I change the channel? So he can turn it on himself, he can turn on his CD player by himself, he can call people, he can text people, all just by pushing a button on the back of his head.
Wow, even for texting?
Yep, he can text them as well.
Gosh, that's so that's amazing, mind-boggling, really, how they invented that.
Yeah, it's really liberating.
And is he happy with the new achievements?
Yeah, he absolutely loves them. Yeah, it's added a whole new. You can imagine the liberating factor of that on his life. So that's really exciting because we're about to go into something called the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Yeah. Which is pretty much as big as introducing Medicare.
Oh, okay.
So beforehand, if you had a disability, you applied to your state government for funding, and you basically went on a wait list. Yep. Someone often had to die for you to get your funding, or you had to move up the wait list very slowly.
How would someone, what do you mean someone has
to
die?
So a certain amount of money was allocated to the state's disability sector each year.
Oh, okay.
Very, very extreme cases would get approved outside of that money, but basically people had that allocation for life. So there wasn't many free spots opening up.
Okay.
Then
we'll have to go to a break, but we'll talk about the NDIS as soon as we get back. You're watching Nat Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with David Hogg, who is a social worker and also case manager at Independence Australia. Welcome back to the program, David.
Thanks, Mirella.
And just before the break, you were telling us about NDIS. Can you tell us a little bit more about it and what they're actually
do? Basically, it ends up cheaper for the entire country to take out an insurance policy against human bodies. So that's basically what the National Disability Insurance Scheme is. It's an insurance policy that everyone's taken out against their own body. This means that people don't apply and wait 10 years to get funding for things. It's kind of like Medicare, like turning up to a hospital. If you need something, you get it. As long as it's reasonable and necessary, you get it. So the amazing thing about that is that they've doubled the funding that's in the disability sector, and it's all aimed at you being able to achieve your goals. So if that's getting into work and you need some modifications of the workplace, you think you might need, a few lessons in here to get into work, NDIS will most likely fund that to get you back integrated. They'll fund things like me as a social worker to help you achieve your goals, to break them down into manageable steps, to be there to reflect the strengths that are inside of you, to discuss with me like times when it's really hard and things like that. And the other exciting thing is they'll fund technology. So they'll fund tech like that guy who's able to control his environment. They love funding things like that and giving the power back to the people to be able to control their environment and to have the maximum amount of capacity that they can.
And so there's something they're inventing now, which is like something you put on your head and it makes you move the wheelchair with just thinking on it. Can they do that also with walking? Like you put this like cap on your head and then you can start walking by just thinking about it.
So the amazing thing about NDIS that people on the right side of politics, as in right wing, aren't grasping as much is the economic opportunity here. We are totally market based, changing the system, so it's going to be completely demand based. So the people themselves will be funded based on what they're demanding. No longer will organisations hold the funding for people and decide what's best for them. So that means that all this new technology is going to revolutionise much, much quicker, and we'll be able to sell it to other countries and things like that. The tech that you're talking about is something came out of, I think, America, and it's about virtual reality. And it's where you watch yourself walking and a machine moves you so that you can walk. And the envisagement and the seeing of the movement somehow is being able to reconnect those neural pathways again, and is giving quadriplegics hope again to be able to walk. I believe that over 90% of the participants in that particular study found some movement again after being diagnosed as a full quadriplegic. So the exciting new world that we're about to enter, the technology we're about to develop for our own citizens and for the world is astronomical and really exciting for business and for people here.
Gee, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Gee, isn't that amazing? So that you can do this virtual reality thing and pretend it makes you walk. Is it like a machine you stand in to walk?
You stand in it and it'll move your legs in the correct
right way.
Movement way. Yep. And you'll spend time also, even when it's not moving you, watching yourself do it. So envisagement, whether you're doing it for a goal, picturing yourself being able to do the goal and how you would do it, who would believe in you to do it when you've done things like it in the past is crucial to doing it again. It's very similar with neural networks. What we can imagine ourselves doing with our brain can often do. So it's an exceptionally powerful, exciting organ.
So it's like visualising.
Yep.
Like, so for example, when I was walking with like crutches or whatever, I'd be walking with crutches and my legs aren't doing all the correct steps, but I would take the steps when I'm walking with the crutches, and if I visualise it, that I'm doing it perfectly, that's what's going to help me.
Absolutely.
Is that what it is? Like you combine the two together.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all these amazing studies that are out there now. Like, for example, if you visualise yourself doing exercise, there's health benefits to it for your body. Your body prepares what it thinks it needs to prepare for. So if you're visualising yourself walking, it thinks that that's something that you do all the time, and so that's a potential science avenue that we're on the brink of exploding into, of exploring.
So it's they're basically saying the power of visualising is so powerful, is like really powerful. Yeah,
the power of the brain to reforge connections and the neuroplasticity, the ability to make pathways that used to exist, to reconnect to them potentially is the new frontier. So
it all comes from the brain then, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. The way that we think, we're creatures of habit. So if we walk through a grassy field 100 times, that grassy field is going to become a path, and that's how the brain works, and that's how positive thinking works as well. So if you think positively 100 times, that's the most likely neural network that your brain's going to go towards, to believe that you can do things, to envisage that you can do things.
Gee, I remember when I had my accident, all the doctors and everyone said, there's no hope, you're never going to walk again. And it was almost like they were trying so hard to convince me. And they had the nurses saying it, the physios and everyone. And then I ended up working with this guy who'd had a similar accident. He said, look, he wasn't even a physio or anything. He was just a chef. And he said, I'll help you. I'll show you the way. Because I did it myself. And he was sort of showing me, and he was saying just the most biggest thing he was saying is visualize and be 100% positive. And all he kept saying was get the doctors and the nurses out of your brain, because they were just kept coming back in. I'd say, because every time he'd say do this thing, I said, but they said I can't. But they said I can't. It was always me just thinking what they said, because other friends said to me, trust in the doctors. Yeah,
I suppose there's that duality there, because after an accident or something like that, there is a certain amount of grieving and loss that needs to occur, and where you need to find different ways of achieving things. Yeah. But then on the other side, the technology and science is evolving so rapidly that it's so amazing that we can still hold that hope. Yeah. And wait to see what's around the corner.
Okay, we have to go to a break now. You're watching Nat Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is David Hogg. If you've just joined us, he's a social worker and case manager at Independence Australia. Welcome back to the program, David.
Thanks, Mirella.
Now tell us, when you were doing your studies, because you've been working at Independence Australia for 2 years now, but prior to that you were doing your studies and you had placement in different areas. Can you tell us a little bit about the placement you're in?
I did one placement at DHS in a unit that worked with people who had an intellectual disability or an acquired brain injury who had committed crimes. Right. So my role was to work as a case manager to help them envisage an alternate pathway, or help them re-author the story that was being told about their lives. Right. Something we found, that the literature has found, is that the most important thing in someone's life is the story that they tell about their lives. So the role that they believe that they take. Are they the villain, or are they someone that is seen as, you know, kind and helpful to society? Are they stigmatized, or are their strengths reflected back to them quite often? So with people who've committed crime, often they find that there's this additional barrier once they get out of prison. In fact, a barrier is so strong that there's no time in their life that they're more likely to commit crime than when they're just been released from prison. So that, they believe, comes down to the role that they believe that they have when they come out of prison, the networks that they have. Do they have positive people around them? Do they have people that believe that they can live a life without committing more crime? Do they have secure attachment figures? Do they have the right type of supports from the government in terms of making sure that they can read and write? And if they want to get a job, are they supported in applying for that job? Are they supported in maintaining that job?
Okay, and so what can you do about changing their network of friends? How can they change that when they get out?
Well, either the network itself could change. People themselves already know who sort of influences them towards believing that they should be committing more crime or shouldn't. But if the network itself doesn't change, the way the network treats the person can change. So if you don't like seeing your friend, you know, end up in prison again, maybe you can be there to support them, allow them to maybe have, you know, stable accommodation at your house, really encourage them when they want to get jobs and do something meaningful with their lives, really bring out the tenacity that's within these people, and the potential that's within these people.
So they need to mix with friends that are more of a positive influence on them.
Yeah, or at least have their friends be a positive influence on them, if they're going to maintain the same
If they want to keep with the same friends, you say, listen, none of this anymore.
Yeah.
let's start a different life, and can you support me in a different way of behaviour?
And there's so many people that believe that because they've done some actions that aren't favourably looked upon, that they're defined by that action and that alone, when people are so much more than that.
Yeah.
And people may have a part of them that, you know, is traumatised and led to that crime, but there's also always a second part to somebody that tells a different story of when they were strong in the face of adversity, when they went through that trauma and they're still here and alive, when they've served their time in prison and now they're out and now they have a chance again. So it's about telling that alternate story and broadening it out and seeing ways that can be seen. For example, I've worked with somebody who believed that he was defined by his heroin addiction, really wanted to work in teaching kids teaching kids in schools, and obviously wasn't going to get a working with children's check while being currently addicted to heroin and having a very extensive criminal history. So he flipped that to be able to lecture at universities, lecture the next generation of social workers and youth workers and those that are going to be working with people who are addicted to heroin or who have been in prison, to say, this is what it's actually like. I'm an expert in this field. I can teach you. And now he goes around and he tells people, you know, what sort of things have you done in your life? Oh, well, I've lectured at university. And that becomes part of the new story about what he tells about himself.
How beautiful.
Yeah.
Because I guess there is that labelling, isn't there? There are people that would say, like, once a thief, always a thief. Once a criminal, always a criminal. And then it's hard for them to shake it off.
And the idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy is a very strongly proven thing in psychology. If you really believe that you are going to steal a chocolate bar from a shop and you're 100% sure about it, the likelihood of you going into that shop and stealing a chocolate bar is pretty high.
Yeah.
If somebody believes in you and you believe in yourself that you can do this alternate route, and if the government and the people support you as well to do what you believe that you can do, then you can change that story, you can change that pathway.
That's beautiful. And also you worked at Sacred Heart Mission.
Sacred Heart Mission,
yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sacred Heart Mission's a really fantastic organisation that does aged care as well as works with people experiencing homelessness. And when you were just saying about stigma, one of the interesting things, we think that people experiencing homelessness get there by drug and alcohol or mental health issues, when actually domestic violence, gay kids being kicked out of home, people you know, renting and falling into debt is the way that they often end up, and that drug and alcohol comes a lot later, actually.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on the program. We've run out of time, but it's been wonderful having you here.
That's okay.
You've been watching Nat Chat. Hope you enjoyed the program. See you again soon.